everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Nana's Adventures. I'm here with a friend, Nana-Yaa. We're talking about her career journey. Thank you for all who have liked, commented, and shared the previous video. We'll get right into it. So, introduce yourself.
Like Nana said, my name is Nana-Yaa. I'm a GP. For those who don't know what that means, it's a general practitioner, a doctor.
Cool. How did you get into becoming a GP? Go back years. What were you doing before you decided to become a GP or a doctor?
Okay, so my degree that I did initially was biomedical science. That was a 4-year course in biomedical science. Then I got a job in Leeds working as a biomedical scientist in a lab. So I was basically working in histology, which is the study of tissues and cells, basically. So yeah, that's what I was doing before.
And what prompted the change? You didn't like what you were doing?
No, I did. I did like it. I'd always sort of had an idea in my brain that I wanted to be a doctor, but it wasn't a serious enough idea in order for me to be really serious with exams. Exactly. So when I was working as a biomedical scientist, I found out that you could do a graduate course in medicine. So I decided to find out a little bit more about it. I found that it was something that I could possibly do. So I went ahead and applied, and then I started a graduate entry course.
Trying to do the application process, exam, were you not deterred?
So the application process was actually easy. Well, easy. It wasn't too onerous. It was just the same as any application process for university. I had to write a personal statement. There was an exam that I had to do, which did mean some revision of just A-level science, because I did this sort of 2 years after I'd graduated from university, so it'd been a long while since I'd done A-level science, so just a bit of revision in that. And then yes, there was an exam to sit, which I did have to revise for, so I was doing that as I was working, and would have to do that in the evening, but I was pretty sort of determined to do it, so it wasn't. I don't remember it being really difficult to do. I think if you want something hard enough, you'll do it, really. So
yeah. And I'm sure you're aware of how funding is for undergrad and postgrad. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, so
did you save up from your previous job and pay, or?
So the funding is different. Obviously, undergrad you can apply for student loan, maintenance loan, yeah, and that will fund you through your years of study. With the graduate course, you did have to pay for the first year by yourself, and then after that you could apply for a student loan and you could apply for a maintenance grant, so that's sort of living expenses. I was lucky in the sense that I could get some help from my mum and my dad to help me pay the first year, because I had some savings, but it wasn't enough. So thankfully mum and dad were really gracious and helped me to pay for the first year, and then following that I applied for student loan, and so that helped me pay for that. But it does mean that I now have 2 lots of student loan to pay off, but let's not talk about that.
I mean, that's my thing with pursuing careers. Like, gone are the days where uni was free.
Yes,
so you
exactly.
can go, and if you didn't like it, you're back home. This time you can go, if you didn't like it, you're back home with £9,000 plus.
Yeah, of that, yes.
If it's not going to be something that you can make money off to pay back, it's always what's
thinking about.
Take some step back and see, is it a passion project? Is it something that is a passion but you can make it work and make a living out of it? Because those student loan people, they don't joke. They start collecting their coins when you're out and you are with a particular treasure. They don't ask whether, hey, have you found a job? And it's something that goes on your name wherever you go, looking for credit or different things. It's part of your credit score, so something to be mindful of. Even if it's quite a long time to pay, if you have a means to pay, it's better than not.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily it goes out automatically, like Nana said. Once you hit a certain threshold of income, they do start taking the money out, and it is automatic, so you don't have to think about, I have to save this amount of my salary to pay the student loans company.
As long as you have a means of money that they can take some bit of, and they're not so cruel.
No, they don't take loads and loads, but
you can't pay them off, or if you want to, but know that you can take your time with it and pay. And that's I think an incentive for anyone who's worried about finances. You try and get to the point where you can pay yourself. So now you have done the course. And you finish and you do your foundation year. How was that for you as a matured junior doctor?
Yeah, before we move on to that, can I just say about the exams actually, because
I forgot to mention that. How did you find the
so the exams were, I'm not going to lie, they were hard, but they weren't I think they weren't something that you couldn't do if you revised for them. Here in the UK, there are two different routes that you can go down. As a mature student, you can apply to go down the undergraduate medicine route, and there's a certain set of exams that you do for that, or you can go down the graduate route, which is just a compressed, so it's 4-year course, as opposed to the 6-year course, and you can sit a different exam for that. That's the route I decided to go down, and I sat something called the Gamsat, which is it slightly limits you to the number of universities you can apply to and which universities you can apply to, because not all of them accept that exam. More universities accept the other one, the UK CAT, which you can actually also sit if you're doing the Gamsat, the graduate one as well.
Gives you 2 options.
Gives you a bit more options. I found it was more computer based. The Gamsat was a written exam. This one was very computer based, and I found that actually, for me, I would have done better with the written one, so I went for that. But I would definitely look into both and just see where you're likely to maybe do better. You know, if you're better on computers and you've got really quick processing brain, then do the other one, because you know that does give you a wider range of places you can apply to. But
cool.
For me,
any
it
tips
worked.
in your studying? Studying as a young person is different as studying as a postgraduate working. Having other life challenges, especially those with children and that.
I think for me,
you go to the library, you have a rota, do you study with friends? How do you navigate that?
I did a combination. I think I tend to study better by myself, so majority on my own. Where I was, the library wasn't fabulous, so I have to say I did spend a lot of time studying in my room by myself, and I tended to work much better at night as well. So I'm more of a nocturnal person, so I did study quite late at night, and I found that it worked for me. The nature of my course was that we did a lot of small group work, so there was a lot of work with other people in small groups, which was fine. But if you don't enjoy that kind of work, then maybe don't do that kind of. It's called problem-based learning, basically, and that's the way that my course was run. And not all medical courses are run that way. Yeah, but if you don't love having to work in a group with lots of people, then maybe that's not the right way for you.
If it's working with people has a lot of challenges.
I think I actually found that because my course had all hosts of different types of people, so people with children and people who were, had quite high flying jobs before, and I found that actually the people with children were better with their time.
No, you didn't have much left.
Exactly, than me or the others. They came in, they studied, they knew what they needed to do, they had to get it done and leave. So I mean, I can't speak for their home life, obviously, because I didn't see it, but when they were there, they were on it, because they knew that actually when they got home, they probably didn't have the, whereas, you know, some of us who didn't have any children were a bit more lax in our...
I do like studying by myself, but I like to study in a room with people doing their own thing, like that aesthetic, gives me a space of mind. But group studying, very rarely. I'll go with a friend, but we wouldn't be studying together. Maybe we can chit chat about things halfway through. I have some friends who would turn up to the library and no work got done. So those individuals who they know themselves if you're watching, clear first studying with them, we'll chill. But when it comes to studying, they were not the people I'll be calling to go and study. So now you finished your postgrad training, you're in foundation year. How do you navigate that?
Oh, how did I navigate foundation here? Oh, terrifying. Yes, very scary. It was really hard, actually. I mean, I had 2 years of working as an adult under my belt before I went into doctoring, and it was really hard. There was a lot of, I think, maybe expectations that you put on yourself, because, you know, it's quite a matured adult, you know better. Well, I think it's more the level of the sense of responsibility. You know, if suddenly you're a doctor, someone's life in your hand. Exactly. And really, actually, as an F1, even as an F2, you don't have that much autonomy. You don't have that much responsibility. But you feel it so much, and so, you know, there was so much stress and so much just anxiety about what you're doing. Are you doing the right thing? Every tiny little thing that you do wrong, it's like, oh my gosh, somebody could die, and that's not the case at all. But it's a really stressful time. How did you overcome some of these challenges? What did you do to help ease things? I think
they have a lot of support for the foundation.
There is support. I think it depends very much on your... Everybody gets a clinical supervisor who's someone who you can sort of is meant to look after you on the job, so it'll be your consultant in the job that you're working, and an educational supervisor who's sort of over you for the entire 2 years of your training. And, you know, if they are good, then great. Not everybody is. For my very first job, my clinical supervisor was not fabulous. I mean, she was a nice lady, but she wasn't a very good pastoral lady. She was a surgeon. Not to cast any shade on any surgeons out there, but she was very stereotypical surgeon lady. And I had struggled. I was struggling. We had a meeting, and I cried in that meeting because I really missed. I'd moved from one county to another, and I really missed where I'd studied, and I'd missed my friends. I really missed my church. I missed my friends, and so I was just talking about how that was, and I started to cry, and then she was like, "Oh well, not everybody's meant to be a doctor, so don't." It's not it's not a failure if you decide that you want to leave.
At the door,
literally, and so that was not helpful.
At least you met yours. When I got to Aberdeen, they put my name by someone that I emailed once for the whole 2 years. I couldn't tell you whether she was black, white, purple. To this day, I don't know what she was like. Oh god! All I know is that my name is under her, and she was meant to look after me. She didn't bother to check whether, hey, are you alive?
Disgraceful.
You come from England to Scotland by yourself and had no one there, and she wouldn't give you. No. Yeah.
So
you have to make your own.
Yeah, you do. You do. And luckily for me, I think God was so good to me, and He just sustained me and upheld me, and I found a nice church and had got to know people and good friends and things. So that was really really helpful. Yeah.
If you're forced to that corner, you have to either sink or swim.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And I think if you're struggling, you need to. It's important to speak up and just. And if your supervisor is not the best person, then find somebody else because they need you.
And there's you can understand they have a lot of things going on as well. Yeah. So but try. It's your life at the end of the day. So take it in your own hands and go for it. So then you've done the foundation year. How did you end up picking GP?
So that was, I think GP kind of
Called you?
No, not really. It was the job that I had disliked the least.
Right.
To say. Well, I hadn't, and I when I got to the end of F2, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Initially, I thought maybe pediatrics, but I'd done a job in F2 in peds, and it was just not for me. And then I thought maybe obs and gynae, but I'd never done a job in that, and I didn't think applying for a job in, for training in an area that you've no experience of at all, apart from medical school, but that was 3 weeks, was probably not wise. So I took a year out and locumed on an elderly care ward for a couple of months, then went travelling for a bit, came back and worked on the same elderly care ward. And while I was out there, I decided to apply for GP training. So I had to sit the exam. So to apply for training, you have to sit an exam, which I had to study for and sit while I was out in New Zealand.
What kind of holiday was that?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't tons and tons of studying, I have to admit. There should have been more than there was. But
all right,
I sat the exam. I passed it.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then when I came back, still locumed for a bit, and then started on the training.
So you're now on the training, a year to 2 years into it. 3 years, right? It's a 3-year program.
It's a 3-year program.
You have to do portfolios, see patients.
Portfolio, yeah.
You threw in COVID. How did you?
Training was first 2 years was actually all right, because there was quite a lot of hospital jobs involved, and that was very similar to what I'd been doing before. Different jobs, but it's basically the same. You're on a ward, you look after patients, you go on a ward round, something goes wrong, you take care of them. It's basically it.
Well-oiled machine.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. The mechanics of working in a hospital are the same. The hard bit was actually doing the GP jobs, because the problems, the things that people come to you with are very different to what you see in a hospital. What do you do with an ingrowing toenail? Who knows? If you've never come across that before, exactly what do you do with this random rash that just looks like any other rash you've ever seen? It's quite different, and all the social problems that people have, that you're expected to also try and fix along with their medical problems. So it's a very, very different. Yeah, very, very different to hospital.
That's what I think about.
So it was difficult.
GP, if you work on gastro ward, you're stuck with all gastro people.
Exactly.
If you work on adult GP, you can have a baby 1 minute, you can have an adult 1 minute, you can have pregnancy the next minute.
Lots of mental health stuff. Yeah. So
some mornings we spent time giving tissues, and I was like, I'm only here for 1 month. I know it's the beast. I wouldn't venture into it if you're not called for it. I wouldn't. If you're not called into it, I don't think you should find yourself out for it. It's
very different.
A master generalist.
And the portfolio that you have to do alongside it again is quite. I think it's quite heavy actually for compared to what some of the other training schemes have to do. It's quite heavy. Our portfolio relied very much on reflections in order to show that you've met these competencies, and sort of in the first year. I think it's changed now in some deaneries, but in the first year it was 1 reflection a week. In the second year it was 2 reflections a week. In the third year it was 3 reflections a week, plus other bits of evidence you need to gather and other things that you need to do, plus towards the end it's exams, which everybody has to do, but the reflections were the hard things actually that I found just a waste of time. Some of them, it just felt like a tick box exercise, and it felt like you were only doing it as to jump through a hoop, and it wasn't. I didn't find it very educationally beneficial. I didn't feel like I learned. The majority of the ones I did because I had to. The ones that I felt like I really did learn from the process was the ones where, this is something has happened. I really would actually like to reflect on this. What happened? Why did this happen? What could I have done differently? What will I do differently in the future? What have I learned from this? And so they were the ones that I felt were better, and also you could read that they were better. My supervisor would actually say, I can tell when when you're actually only doing this because you have to, as opposed to when something has touched you and you're like, okay, I really need to reflect on this. So I think that I don't say take them away completely, but I think that they ought to be
either cut down or give you more time.
Cut down or just make it less strict, I guess. And just they could say, in this period of time, you are expected to do this number of reflections, and leave it to you as to how you do it. I think that would get it done. And that would give you a little bit more agency and a bit more autonomy. But then you don't pass. If you then you're not going to pass it.
It is a catch-22, and there's some people who need that nudge. Leaving it open like that.
I suppose it.
But finding the balance is always difficult for everyone. How did you add COVID? Let me not say add COVID. With COVID,
how did I manage with COVID?
How did you manage with COVID?
So with COVID, to be honest,
a lot of things went virtual.
I mean, yes, we had to move from, practically, overnight actually, we had to move from face-to-face appointments to doing it virtually, so over the phone and videos, which was hard to get used to at first because nobody had ever done telephone consultations before. We'd never done it. The old seasoned GPs had never done it, so we were all learning. And actually, at the beginning of things, it was quite nice because we weren't getting that many patients coming in at all, or ringing because everyone was or they didn't want to bother us or whatever. So it was quite, in GP it was initially quite quiet, which was actually nice. But going forward, I think I adapted quite quickly actually to telephone. I do actually prefer telephone for the most part to face-to-face. I had quite a bit of time off during the COVID time, just with personal illness. So I did miss the middle part of things, if you like. But the college were quite nice to us in the sense that they did relax some of the expectations that we needed to get in order to complete our training. So I think that there was some benefit to it, obviously, but it was different.
But you made it. You
made it through. Hurrah!
So looking back, would you still take GP? What would be advice if I was a young person not knowing what would?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of time, yes, and money, and I think you need to be sure that you want to do it. There has been a lot of times where I've thought, gosh, did I, was it the right decision? I think overall it probably was.
Still is, hopefully. Hopefully was Have you left the profession?
I'm still in it, but I to be honest, I am still thinking, I think every day it's becoming 60-40.
60-40 in which direction?
In its favour.
Okay.
No. But no,
it's growing on you.
It's not an easy job, and I would definitely say think about it. I think maybe it would I would actually say, and even somebody who has gone through the graduate scheme, I would say the graduate scheme is probably better in the sense that you have a bit more maturity.
Yeah.
You've had a bit more life experience. Yeah. I mean, I found it tough, and I had all of this stuff. Imagine what an 18-year-old, 19, 20-year-old is.
They have the naivety, and they have the oblivion, and they have the strength and energy. They don't know what is coming to them.
Well, yeah.
You can hide on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of commitment, it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of money as well.
Ding.
I would definitely, I wouldn't say don't do it, because it is a great profession. You're out there and you're giving of yourself to help other people. It does take a lot out of you, but you also get a lot back.
It's a profession that doesn't get people redundant. Medicine, no one gets kicked out of healthcare. As long as human beings are alive, there's always going to be a job.
Yeah.
So for job security, it doesn't get any better than the pay could be better though.
Yes.
So
if you're thinking about going into it,
that's not a profession.
Maybe go down the business route, or become a dentist, or a vet, or go private.
Yeah. If you want to do NHS, it's a labour of love and a very thankless.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
So I hope that was helpful.
That is 26 minutes of gold. Anyone who's struggling,
I think so.
Yeah, because you will find all this information in different sources, but to have all of it on one platform. I wish I can interview different other doctors in different specialties and how they've navigated it.
That would be good.
That would be good. I've got a few. If you're watching, I'll be emailing you. So. Right, thank you very much for joining me. As always, leave your comments. I'll get back to you, and like, share, and subscribe. Alright, see you in the next one.
% of the population.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel.
We've started, have we?
We have. Oh my God.
Have we?